Man, you told me this like 4 years ago, I would have been geeked, and I find that so funny. Things can change that quick, bruh. If I was to have a conversation with myself like half a decade ago around the time Endgame came out, and I told myself that I didn't really give a damn about the MCU at all anymore, I wouldn't believe myself one bit. It was a time that MCU trailers dropping were like actual events for me. Just the trailers. Now, I honestly don't even watch them. It's been like a long list of events that led to this, and it definitely started in the aftermath of Endgame. The MCU hasn't been in a good place for a few years now. Even some of their most hardcore fans will tell you the same. If we're keeping it a buck, it probably reached its lowest point a year or two ago, but the point is, it's lost a lot of what used to be its core fans. Why? Shit, we can go down a long list of reasons. The MCU originally gained popularity by making people care about characters that weren't really like A-listers or the most popular, like for example, Iron Man. But by the time we reached post-endgame, we got to a point where there was so many characters and so many people being introduced that it got too hard to keep up, and many people stopped caring. It was like 25 or 30 projects announced for the next 4 years at one point. People started saying it wouldn't be so bad if I missed one, and then they started missing all of them. Those fans that abandoned ship weren't being replaced by new fans either because of how hard it became to get into the MCU. I remember when it started hitting for me because I'm not gonna lie, those first few projects after Endgame, after the hiatus, I was still on the ship. WandaVision may not have been that good, but it was definitely a fun time. The theories was flying around, people was having fun. Falcon and Winter Soldier, I was still on the ship for sure. Loki too, and then the movies like Shang-Chi, shit was still jumping. No Way Home was definitely the post-Endgame peak in terms of excitement and activity in the fan base. Unfortunately, it led to problems of its own, but we'll get back to that later. Miss Marvel was the first time I delayed watching an MCU project for a month or two. Didn't know if it would be good or bad or nothing, but I just felt no urgency to watch it. There was a sense of like weariness, like okay, it was starting to get a bit much. Now, Thor Love and Thunder was where I said, all right, I'm jumping off the ship. That shit was ass, like on a personal level. Gore's comic story is one of my favorite comic stories ever. I've read it hella times. It's always been the Thor story that I love the most. Waititi went out there and put up a stinker. They took a comic that was gruesome and damn near a horror story at some points and made it a joke. The jokes in Marvel movies weren't really too major of an issue for me before that, but that movie was where I got completely sick of it. You had Thor clowning around in the adaptation of a story where gods across the universe were being mass slaughtered and fucking enslaved and shit. It's one of the other problems that the MCU had that started getting pretty tiresome as the years went on. People got tired of the same corny jokes and predictable dialogue. Over the last few years, more and more MCU projects fell into the forgettable and not that interesting category. Quantumania sucked. Secret Invasion was whatever. The Marvels was whatever. She-Hulk was whatever. The cultural impact had faded away. Unfortunately, Marvel Studios took the wrong message from this. They could have tried switching it up, maybe giving the tone of the movies more variety, expanding the MCU into more genres like horror, for example, trying to diversify the movies and make something kind of fresh, focus more on quality instead of quantity, try unique visuals, any of that. They stepped out of their comfort zone a couple times, and to be fair, it wasn't always well received. Eternals was hated by a lot of people, even though I thought it wasn't too bad. I love the visuals too. I love the direction Sam Raimi went with Multiverse of Madness. That movie had its problems, but the visuals and the darker vibes were great. Werewolf by Night was well received, and I thought it was great that they were being ambitious. It's probably the most unique MCU project of the last half decade. Instead of doing more of that, they took the easy way out and resorted to nostalgia bait. The worst part about it is, right now, it's one of the only things that's working for them. No Way Home made almost $2 billion after bringing back Toby and Andrew. Multiverse of Madness made just under $1 billion after bringing back Stewart's Professor X, and months of rumors and hype surrounding other possible former characters returning. Wolverine and Deadpool made $1.3 billion using the return of Hugh Jackman, and then after the movie release, the word spread of countless other cameos from older comic movie characters, from Blade to Chris Evans' Human Torch to multiple others. Those three films are the highest grossing MCU movies after Endgame, and the only three to make over $900 million. Is money everything? Of course not. But to Marvel Studios, it is, and they clearly think that nostalgia is the way to go because they've brought back both RDJ and Chris Evans for that exact purpose. As someone who loves Secret Wars, especially the 2015 version, I already had low expectations for the adaptation when they said they were replacing Doom with Kang in the story. Replacing Doom in a story that's damn near centered around him and Reed's relationship, and then making it an Avengers story on top of that? Yeah, sure, buddy. And you could argue they're adapting the 80s one, but they mentioned incursions in Multiverse of Madness, so I don't think so. Then Majors fucked it up by Chris Breezy and some white girl, and Doom was revealed to be back in play, just for them to reveal RDJ will be coming back and playing him. I'm so tired. There is so much wrong with that casting, but the main issue is that it clearly shows that Marvel is getting desperate. All that he's the only man for the job stuff is bogus. There's about 10 actors who can play a better Doctor Doom than RDJ. This isn't a knock on him, but it's ridiculous to suggest he's the only guy for the role. Let's be serious here. The Chris Evans news recently is just further confirmation. They're not really sure what to do, so they're just bringing people back to fill up seats. They definitely put too much dip on their chip after Endgame with that bloated ass schedule and didn't expect people to say, hold on, I can't keep up with all this shit. They also realized that after killing Iron Man and Captain America and Black Widow and Black Panther and a few other important characters, there just weren't that many characters left that people had an important connection to, and people were getting too much MCU fatigue to bother trying to vibe with the new characters. Now the whole fan base is a mess because nobody really knows what the majority wants. Some people are fine with the nostalgia bait and just want to see their old favorites interact on screen. Some people are sick of it and want to see actual good stories instead of some slop thrown together to make millennials clap when somebody they recognize from 2 decades ago pops up on screen. Some people want their favorite characters or their favorite comic adapted correctly and they're tired of stuff being shifted around. Some people just want to go to a theater and enjoy themselves. Marvel can't really tell who the outstanding majority is, so they're just going with the old reliable, the one that's guaranteed to make the most money. Nostalgia. Like it or not, casuals are probably the biggest population of Marvel fans. They're not listening to Spidey Solo 727 on Twitter when he says he just wants a street level Spidey story where he gives Kingpin a few uppercuts and body slams Rhino through a bulldozer. It's unfortunate, but are we really surprised? This is Disney we're talking about. They're not doing it for the love of the game or the love of art. They're doing it for the love of money. Most likely, Doomsday is going to have like 60 characters from the last 3 decades slapped together on screen with a vaguely discernible plot, a couple of old catchphrases and recognizable quotes, and then a mess of a final battle with a bunch of explosions or some shit. I don't know. I'm fully aware I sound like a hater right now, but I've reached a point with the MCU where if I don't set my expectations in the absolute dirt, they'll find a way to let me down somehow. I'm not saying there's no chance Doomsday is going to be good. Nostalgia-bait movies aren't automatically bad. They can be enjoyable and fun. But every comic fan knows the feeling of one of their favorite stories or characters going mainstream after being adapted, and you know the comic version is miles better. With Doom being introduced as an Avengers villain and being played by RDJ, let's be for real here, he won't have his proper rivalry with Reed, which is one of the biggest parts of what makes both of those characters great in the first place. I don't talk about the MCU movies as much as I used to anymore, to be honest, but I did want to talk about that because Chris Evans returning makes it even more obvious that they're low-key just throwing stuff together. Thanks for watching, y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all later.